Hello and welcome to part 2 of my October vlog. In the second half of October, I am participating in a read-along called trickortbr. It's being hosted by Alexandraramz and Thames. I'll link both of their YouTube channels below. There's like a little bingo board that you have to fill out. It has 9 squares, and I am reading the rest of my books for this challenge, the rest of my overall October books, and then there's a couple non-reading challenges too. So first square is Pumpkin Patch, where you read a book with orange on the cover, and for that I'm doing Mexican Gothic. There's a tiny bit of orange right there. So that's for that one. The next square is Sunday Scaries, where you watch a movie sometime in the month of October of October-y themes. And I just finished The Haunting of Hill. No, I didn't. I just finished We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. I found out there's a movie. I'm very interested in it. I loved We Have Always Lived in the Castle. I finished it a couple nights ago, and oh my gosh, it's like a new favorite. It's so good. It's very slow and unsettling and very dark. And once you kind of piece together what's going on, things start coming together. And by the time you get to the very, very end and you get this kind of vague outside perspective, you're like, oh, the ending really ties it together. It's about these two sisters who live together in a house. Their whole family is dead. There are witchy themes in it. It's very good. I really loved it so much, but it was very dark. And the way that the book was written, I know I'm going off on a tangent. I didn't plan to talk about this book right now. But the way the book was written really balances out how dark it is, because it's written in this very simplistic, matter-of-fact way, and it's very gentle. It's written in a very gentle, what's the word I'm looking for? Optimistic kind of way. But it's so dark. It's so good, and I want to read more Shirley Jackson so bad. So anyway, there's a movie of We Have Always Lived in the Castle, and I'm not sure that everything I love about the darkness of the book is going to translate to the movie. I watched the trailer and it just straight up seems dark, without these cool nuances that really make it work for me. So I don't know. The next square is Witching Hour, where you read a book with supernatural themes. For that, I'm reading Carmilla. This is a book about a vampire. And the next square is Sweater Weather, which is really exciting. This is where you create an outfit based on the cover of a book. And I think what I'm going to do is, if I finish my sweater in time, if I finish my Chartres Cardigan in time, I am going to wear this to go along with this, because it's red and stuff. So that's what I'm going to do for Sweater Weather. Fright Night is a square where you read a book with a friend, or you do a buddy read or a sprint read. It's something where you're reading with other people. And the book that I'm going to do for that is Ring Shout, which is the allisonpaiges Patreon book club of the month for this month. Book club of the month. Book for the book club. It's the book club book. And so I'll do that book for that. Magic Potion is where you make an autumnal treat or drink, and I've already completed that one. I made a pumpkin pie, and I neglected to get a shot of the actual pumpkin before I cut it in half, but we got a giant pumpkin from our CSA box last week, and it was this big, and it was called a luxury pie pumpkin or something like that. So I roasted it. I've got a whole bunch of pumpkin now. Roasted pumpkin, and I made a pie with it. It was wonderful. I'll link the recipe I used below. So pumpkin pie for that. I also have a bunch of other pumpkin stuff planned. Tonight I'm making pumpkin chili. I made something else pumpkin that I think pumpkin pancakes. I also want to make pumpkin cookies, pumpkin scones, pumpkin waffles. I don't know, I have a lot of pumpkin to use. The next square is Haunted House, where you read a book that has been haunting your shelves, and for that I read We Have Always Lived in the Castle. Cozy Corners, where you take a picture of your reading space, and that will go up on Instagram at some point when I get a picture of myself reading on the blue couch in my special corner, which you have seen many times. And the last one is Friend or Foe, where you read a book for from a genre that you haven't had that much experience in. And for that, I'm reading The Woman in Black because it's a ghost story and I have not read that many ghost stories. So that is kind of what is going on for this second half of October in this vlog. Also, to depart from books and knitting, the mail came a little while ago and I'm very excited. I'm going to open it with you. So I pre-ordered Ezra Furman's new album back in May. The album itself was released last month, and the record, the physical record, was released this month. And I just got it in the mail, and I've already listened to this album a whole bunch on Spotify, but the record came, and I'm very excited. This is it. It's called All of Us Flames, and it's really great. Ezra Furman, this is her, is one of my very, very favorite musicians right now. I love her so much. And this is a really, really great album. So I am not going to put it on right now because River's napping. I, again, am with a lack of childcare today, so I'm running on naps right now, and I will put it on after nap time is over. Okay, so I'm going to get back to work. Today, my focus during nap time, with as much time as I can squeeze into this nap time, I am dyeing some more yarn. I've got an order at my local yarn shop to fill, and I am working on my next month's, my November Patreon design for the digital upload. So I'm gonna get to work and I will see you later.
Every morning he would descend into the caves to search for precious stones, since those were also the days when the mines were abundant and obedient. But the sleeping mountains were waking up again.
Our favorite things, huh?
Okay, I'm really enjoying The Woman in Black so far. I am about 50 pages through and it's a 200-page book. It's a really nice, like, cute, small book. The pages are really, like, compact, which is, I don't know, something about it is pleasing. It's pretty spooky and nothing's even happened yet. I was reading it last night in bed and I had to put it down because I was getting scared, and I really like it so far. It's about a man who has like a really soul-crushing, spooky memory from when he was younger, and he decides to write it down so that he can let it go because it's been haunting him his whole life. And I think most of the book is like that document that he writes down about his past experience, which I'm pretty sure is like a ghost experience or something, but I don't know. I'm a little ways into like that experience of him going to this really out of the way town in England to a house where a woman has died that you can only get to in low tide through the marshes. And she's died. He's like the lawyer who works for the firm who represented her. And he has to go to her house and dig through all her paperwork and find some like important paperwork or something. I don't know. It's all very mysterious. Nothing like supernatural or particularly spooky has even happened yet, but there's a lot of foreshadowing. Like the author makes sure you know that something really terrible and horrible and traumatizing is going to happen to this guy. And it says that it's a ghost story. So I don't know. I just like, the buildup is great in this book. It's already scaring the shit out of me. Okay, I'm going to read. I have like 20 minutes left before it's time to get Lucy up from quiet time, and River probably has another 40 minutes for his nap, so hopefully I can get some good reading in before then. Yes.
And do you know what this big pile is? Mom, do you know what this big pile is?
Some sleep peacefully alone, while others sleep all together huddled close at night. When the sky turns blue and the sun glows bright, everyone wakes up, except for the tired owl. That's right. There you go, my tired owl. Huh? Oh, where'd you go? Where'd you go? So, some very careful coloring on this one for this activity.
What are you doing?
Hey guys, it's Monday, October 24th. I was just listening to Leech, which is the audiobook I've got right now. It's by Hiron Ennes. I'm almost done with it. I have an hour and 21 minutes left, and I love it. It's so good. It's exactly what I want in a Gothic novel. I think doing this reading challenge is changing my opinion of Gothic fiction. I think I'm just learning what I like. I think I've said this like a few times before in this October vlog series. I'm learning what I like in creepy, spooky, horror, and Gothic fiction. And I used to think I didn't really like Gothic fiction because of what I've tried to read in the past and didn't like. But I think I just needed to dig deeper and find out what I liked, because it turns out I love Gothic fiction. I think I just don't like classic Gothic fiction as much as more contemporary Gothic fiction. But man, this book is so good. It's got the classic Gothic tropes. It's got somebody coming from a big city on a train out to the middle of nowhere where it's desolate and cold, to a mining village where there's a giant manor with a baron and his family who lives at it. Things are spooky, things are mysterious, things are starting to go wrong. Everybody's acting very secretive and mysterious and horribly toward each other. And it's unfolding in this very interesting sci-fi sort of way too. It's a Gothic sci-fi dystopian novel. And it's just so beautifully done. I'm so in love with it. I'm so in love with it. So while I continue listening to this, I'm going to get started scanning some yarn. I have a yarn order from my local yarn shop that I have all dyed up and dried and now just needs to be skeined up and labeled and stuff. So I'm going to work on that for a little bit while listening to my book. Also, I wanted to show you I found a progress keeper to go on one of my new necklaces that I got and I mentioned in my last video. But this is a Woolen Forest progress keeper. It's the little pumpkin with the orange stone. And I clipped that on to this necklace, which has a little hoop on it. So I just wanted to show you that, and I'm gonna get started. Okay, knitting progress time. This is my Chartres cardigan, which is the thing that I'm knitting in October. It's also gonna be the sweater weather component to my Trick or TBR read-along thing where you match an outfit to a book cover. So this matches quite nicely with Carmilla, which is the book that I read for the supernatural component of the thing. I forget what prompt that was called. But I did finish Carmilla. I really enjoyed it. It was short and quick and very classic feeling. Definitely I could see the parallels between this book and Bram Stoker's Dracula. So this is the account of a young woman and her experience with a female vampire. And Dracula was inspired by this in part to write Dracula was not the author. Bram Stoker was partly inspired by this novel to write Dracula, and I could definitely see it. So this was one of my books. I'm matching this sweater to this book cover. Hopefully this is done in time. The readathon and this vlog goes until October 31st, so I have until then to finish this up and wear it so that I can match the Carmilla cover. So here's my progress. I'm pretty far. I'm just working down on the body, and I've gotten to the point in the pattern where if I was to add any additional length, I was to make a certain repeat happen one more time. I think after a few more rows of this, I'm just going to do some ribbing, and then that's going to be the body. And then I'll do the sleeves. So hopefully the sleeves don't take a super long time, which kind of they always do, right? Because it's almost as much fabric as the body itself. But I'm really hoping to have this done. It's the 24th right now, so I have a week. I have a week to finish this. I think I can do it. I hope I can do it. I really want to do it. I really want to like meet this challenge or whatever. So we'll see. So here it is. I think it's coming along pretty good. I really like how it looks. I like the ease that I'm getting. I like the fabric. I like how the button band is already incorporated into it. I think that's really great. And this is how long it is so far. I think it's going to be, once it's blocked and off the needles, I think it's going to come down a little bit farther. So we'll see. We'll see what I decide in terms of length and adding more length as I go.
Whitely like milk boiling over the rim of a pot. They traverse the balcony, hurdle the balustrade. The conflagration crawls toward the long, rigid-backed airship, frozen atop the highest tower. Spheres of flaming gas and canvas engulf the other half, sending another burst of warmth through my shivering bones. A surge of sound and fire rushes toward the sky, lighting the night like a smeared sun, streaked with blue and orange, and a glow beside me, goggles lit by the dancing fires.
By the way, my nails are glow in the dark. Okay, so I have two really exciting pieces of mail I wanted to show you really quick. The first is a gift from Colin. It came in the mail the other day, and it's an advent calendar. And it's an advent calendar I've wanted for years. If you've watched my previous Vlogmas videos, you might know that I've always wanted a whiskey advent calendar, and I finally got one. Colin got one for me as a gift, and it came the other day, and I was so surprised, and I'm so excited. It's funny. It's from a UK company, but it's a collection of American bourbons and ryes, which are the two kinds of whiskey that I like. And this is what it looks like on the inside. I can't wait. Can you hear him in there? I cannot wait until December to start opening this. I'm going to have one little super fancy drink of whiskey every single night. And I'm going to get to try stuff that I would probably never otherwise try because I don't really buy expensive bourbons even though I love them. So I'm super excited about that. My next piece of mail is also very exciting. So this is a box that came from Moxi Roller Skates. I am pretty recently a Moxi affiliate, which means I have a coupon code, which is Dynamite, which gets you $5 off a $15 purchase on the Moxi Roller Skates website. So that code is always going to be there. If you ever feel like purchasing anything from the Moxi website, which you guys know if you've watched any of my roller skating vlogs, how much I love Moxi skates. They're the brand of roller skate that I've always had. I've had 3 of them now, and this is the 4th. So they sent me out of nowhere, without even telling me they were going to send me these, they sent me a pair of roller skates because I'm in the affiliate program. So they sent me their Rainbow Riders. I've had beach bunnies, lollies, and jacks in the past. I currently have beach bunnies and jacks. The jacks are my main skates now. The lollies I sold because they weren't for me. The Rainbow Riders are their current, like, most budget-friendly option, and they're very cool, and they just sent me a pair. The thing is, they sent me a size that doesn't fit me. So they sent me a size 5, and in Moxi skates I wore a size 4, so I know these aren't going to fit me. I thought I would do a giveaway because I'm not going to get to wear them, but they're still really cool, and I can't wait to open them. So, look at this box. Oh, I'm so stoked about these. Okay, let's open it. You guys, look at these. Oh, they sent me the pink Rainbow Riders. I really wish these fit me. Look at these brand spanking new roller skates. I've always bought used roller skates, so ooh, seeing a fresh brand new pair is just like so thrilling. Look at how cool these are. So they're like PVC upper and they're pink. There's the rainbow. The tongue is a cloud. The wheels are 82A and they're 58 millimeter and they're red and they're pretty and these are so lovely. I'm gonna try them on. I know that I'm giving these away, but I'm gonna try them on. Isn't that freaking cool though? Moxi sent me free roller skates. I can't even believe it. I'm still reeling from it. So I'm really excited to give them away because they don't fit. They're too big. And I really hope that somebody who wears this size wants them and enters, and I can give them to somebody who can wear them and love them and put them to good use. So Moxi size 5 is gonna fit like a US women's shoe size 6 to 6.5. If you're interested in entering for these, you can always look it up. They have like a chart on their website with measurements and things like that. So, oh, they feel so good too. They're so smooth because they're like nice and brand new. Ooh, okay. So yeah, stay tuned for a roller skate giveaway, unexpectedly. I gotta do some more roller skate vlogs soon though. I haven't done one in quite a while. I'm still very much enjoying my jacks. I bought them used on eBay and I still am completely in love with them. And I just haven't filmed myself roller skating in a little while. It's kind of hard to do. But I should get back to it. Big news, I'm about to bind off the body of my sweater. And then after that, I just have to do the sleeves. Today's October 26th, which means I have, what is that, 5 more days? I'm almost done with my books. I just have the sleeves left on my sweater, and I think I might actually make it. I also just finished Mexican Gothic this morning, and I didn't like it. I started it a couple days ago, finished it this morning. I really wanted to like it. I love the idea. It's a big house mansion type of Gothic novel. It has all the Gothic tropes. It takes place in Mexico, written by a Mexican author, which is all things I really want to like. But for the second time, I just did not like this author's writing. This is the second book of hers that I've read. This is Sylvia Moreno-Garcia. And this book was just kind of like the other one. I liked what it was trying to do, and which I'll talk about at the end of this video when I talk about all the books. I really liked what it wanted to do, but it just didn't do it for me. It didn't, in my opinion, do it that well. It was boring. It was it felt juvenilely written, and it just like none of the stuff that was supposed to be creepy and captivating and gripping, like none of it actually was. It was just, I don't know. It just wasn't, I didn't like it. I gave it 2 stars. I'm very sad that I didn't like it because I really wanted to like it. And I know a lot of people like this book. Like, I think her writing is just not for me. Now, all I have left is one of my bonus books. I have officially finished all of the books that I wanted to read this month, which is so exciting. The only book that I have left is one of my bonus books, which is Ring Shout, which is this book. I'm reading it digitally. And this is Ring Shout by P. Djèlí Clark. I am like a quarter of the way through it. It's a very short book, and I think I'm gonna finish it pretty quick. So it takes place in the early 1900s, and it takes place in a world where the Ku Klux Klan members are actually monsters, like monsters, and our protagonists are trying to kill them. And I'm very intrigued. It's really good so far. I'm only 30 pages in, but I'm really enjoying it, and I think I'm gonna finish it like super fast. So I'm definitely gonna finish all my reading before I finish my knitting. And I really want to get the knitting finished. It's October 30th, tomorrow's Halloween, and the Trick or TBR is over, and I failed. I've completed all but one of the squares. I didn't do sweater weather because I didn't finish my mother freaking cardigan in time, but I'm so close, I'm stuck on Sleep Island. But what are you gonna do? So I'm doing a little wrap up for the whole vlog now. I had a really great time this October reading spooky books, reading Gothic books, reading ghost stories, reading about mysterious parasitic life forms and monsters. So let's do a little wrap up. I'm going to talk about the books I read this whole month and show you my sweater progress. So this month my goal was to read 7 spooky books. I had 2 bonus books that I maybe wanted to get to, and I wanted to knit 1 whole sweater. The sweater that I chose was the Chartres Cardigan by Amy Loudon, and I did not finish in time. I'm stuck on the sleeves, and I'm so sad that I didn't finish because this was going to be my sweater weather prompt for the Trick or TBR, but I'll get to that in a minute. Right now I'm just going to show you where I'm at with my sweater. And she's getting stuck on my gaudy jewelry. Okay. So here it is. I'm done with the body. I ended up doing 2 extra repeats to lengthen it. On the sleeves, it's a top-down sleeve cap cardigan. I think I originally thought it was a drop shoulder, but I also love sleeve caps. So here's my first sleeve, and this is the progress I have on my most progressed sleeve. I've done both sleeve caps. So this one is all done the cappiness and the short rows are all done, and it's just ready to be picked up and knit down. I considered doing 2 at a time sleeves, but then I decided I didn't want to, because I didn't want to. I'm so close to being done. I am so close to being done, and I couldn't believe I didn't finish it for my challenge, but that's okay. I am completely comfortable with failure. But here's what it looks like so far. So this is it. I'm about halfway done with this sleeve, and this sleeve is still way up here. But there she is. I definitely, oh, look, you can see the change in color lot. I did not notice that in real life. Doesn't matter. I don't care. I think the length's going to be good. This is Brooklyn Tweed Shelter, which is a worsted weight woolen spun yarn. It's the Long Johns colorway, which is so pretty. This sweater was supposed to match this book, but I'll get it done very soon, and I will share it when she's all complete. Now, in the first half of this month, in my previous video where I did my October vlog part 1, I finished 3 of the books in my challenge. And those were, the first one was actually just a short story out of this short story collection by H.P. Lovecraft, and it was The Call of Cthulhu. And overall, I struggle with this one, as I do with many things of this era. I loved the writing, I loved the story. This is about a man whose great uncle has recently died, and the man, in going through his great uncle's papers, finds the story of Cthulhu, who is pretty much a primordial demon god who the great uncle has discovered there are cults who worship and follow this god in anticipation of Cthulhu coming back to life at some point and taking over the world. So our protagonist is learning about this old dead god through an anthropological lens. And he's just trying to piece together this god's existence through the accounts of people and their testimonies. It's very much a vibe that I like. It's very mysterious and dark and creepy and ominous, and it's about an old dead god, which is kind of something I think is really cool. I liked the pacing of the story. I liked everything about it, except for the racism. H.P. Lovecraft, there's a lot, he writes a lot of racist theories into this story, and it's really gross, and I did not like it. And yeah, that really killed it for me. I really wanted to like the story, but it was just hard for me to get into it because I kept getting immediately sucked out of the world by reading something and going, ugh. Then I read another classic, which is Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. This is the first time I've ever read this book, and I'm so happy I read it. It was definitely not what I expected, and I think that's a common experience with people who read Frankenstein, because Frankenstein's monster felt quite different than what I thought he was going to be like based on his permeating presence in pop culture. Like, Frankenstein's monster is a thing. I have an image of him in my head. I have an image of what he sounds like. He's a big, bulky, square-headed green guy with bolts, and all he does is grunt. And that was the image of the monster that I had in my head. Reading Frankenstein, the imagery that I got from reading the descriptions of the monster were so different, and I pictured something so different based on the imagery in the book. Something more grotesque than what we have in pop culture. Also, I didn't know Frankenstein was so eloquently well-spoken. Like, he's like eloquent in this 19th century super like stuffy kind of way where he speaks very proper and mature, and like, I did not know that. It was a really fun ride. I really enjoyed it. It started out really strong for me, and I was loving it. I was having so much fun reading it. It kind of petered out towards the end where I started getting like a little annoyed with the characters, and it was kind of getting a little boring. But I'm so happy I read it. There are so many things to read into for this book. Like, I think people break down and study this book a lot in academic circles. Some of the themes in this book are being rejected by society when you don't fit into it in some way or another. And what that does to a person or a monster or whatever. So I loved it. I loved my reading experience with this. I'm very, very happy that I know like the original source now of Frankenstein. I've also never seen the movies, so I don't know. That could be in my future. Next, I listened to an audiobook, which was House of Hollow by Krystal Sutherland, and I adored this book. One of my very favorite books I read for this challenge. It was about 3 sisters It's very witchy. They go missing when they're children. They go missing for a month. Nobody knows what happened to them. They reappear. They don't remember what happened to them, and you slowly start finding out what happened to them. When they come back from being missing, they're different. Their hair has turned white. Their eyes have turned black. And they start acting differently throughout their lives. They find that they have certain powers that they never used to have. And they're completely in the dark about their past traumas, why they're different now, what their memories hold. There's a lot to unlock in this book, and it slowly takes you through and lets you see glimpses and glimpses and glimpses until the end, when you like are hit with the truth of everything. And it's so, oh, it's such a great reveal. It's so dark and it's so eerie and it's so creepy. There's some body horror in this book, but it's gross and grotesque in a very beautiful, like enchanting kind of way. It's so good. It had me completely sucked in and completely immersed in the world the entire time, and I just didn't want it to end. I loved it. I loved House of Hollow. It's so good. I wish I had a physical copy of it. The audiobook was really good, but I wish I could just hold it and look at it and like. So then I started the Trick or TBR challenge, which is a readathon and other thing-along hosted by Sally Thames and Alexandraramz. And I love both of their booktube channels so much. I've linked them down below, and I hope you go check them out because they're wonderful and they read such good books and they make good videos. So they were putting on this readathon and I really wanted to take part. And here's the little grid that you were supposed to like fill out as you completed the challenges. And here is my little filled out grid that I put together. Digitally, as you can see, all but one space is filled out because I did not complete Sweater Weather. The first space is Pumpkin Patch, where you read a book with orange on the cover, and for that I read Mexican Gothic. It has a teeny tiny bit of orange on the cover right here, and I didn't like it. It's about a young woman in Mexico in the 1920s who has to go out to a remote part of Mexico in the hills to this big mansion where her cousin is now living because she's married into the family that lives in the mansion, and find out what's going on with her because her and her father got a very distressing and mysterious letter from her cousin. So she goes there. It's very gothic. It's very creepy. It's very cold and dark and quiet and damp. And it's unsettling. And she slowly figures out what's going on. There is something like going on. There's something wrong. There's something wrong with her cousin. And she figures it out. She gets entwined in it, and she's got to figure stuff out and stuff. It's a gothic mansion, middle of nowhere kind of novel. It's got all the stuff I like. It's got all the stuff I like, and I wanted to like it so bad. But the writing just wasn't very good, in my opinion. Like, it wasn't from, the writing wasn't it's not what I want in writing. I didn't think the writing was very good. The characters were flat. The plot was boring. The plot had potential. It had potential. There's elements of ethnobotany in here, which I find very interesting. It had so much potential for me, but yeah, it was boring. It wasn't creepy. It wasn't scary. It was supposed to be scary and creepy, but it just wasn't. The cover says wonderfully creepy. It says gripping, and it was neither. I was bored, and I wasn't creeped out or scared at all, and I was very disappointed. But I don't know. I know a lot of people love that book. It's a New York Times bestseller. It's also right on the cover too. So I'm probably in the minority. I know I've heard other people have the same opinion as me, but I think there are many more people who really love it. And that's great. That's great. I just didn't. And I'm sad about it. For Haunted House, which is a book that has been haunting your shelves, I read We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson, which is now one of my very new, very all-time favorite books of all time. I loved this book so much. This is like one of the best books I've ever read. It's very short. It's very thin. It's about two sisters who live in a big house at the top of a hill. The village below hates them. There's agoraphobia in here. There's distrust of outsiders in here. And it's very creepy. It's told from the point of view of Mary Cat, who is the younger sister, and she lives with her older sister. Their whole family is dead, except for one of their uncles who still lives with them in their big house. And they live a very weird, still sort of existence. They preserve everything just how it was in their big house right before their family died. They both have all of these rituals that they take part in and complete every day. There's lots of elements of nature in this book. It's very witchy in terms of these like nature rituals that Mary Cat takes part in. She buries things, she nails things to trees, she creates talismans and assigns power to objects and to words. And it's very cool. And the point of view is so matter of fact and innocent and kind of optimistic that it really balances out the very dark nature of this book. It's very dark and it's vaguely disturbing and unsettling, and it's so well done because it's so balanced by the voice of the narrator. And oh, I just love it. I love it so much. It's so good. It's very short. I highly recommend it. Oh, it's so good. The ending really ties it all together too. As a reader, you have kind of a revelation at the ending as to what this book really is, and I loved it. What do you think? Done. Sweater weather complete. Thank you for your help, Squirrel. Sunday Scaries was a prompt where you watch a movie that is either creepy or cozy. And I don't watch many movies. The one movie that I did watch this month, I'm making it fit into the category, and I watched Bros, which is a pretty new movie, and it's a queer rom-com. And it was so fun and delightful, and I really, really enjoyed it. I'm not that into rom-coms, but I am into things that subvert the natural order of things like rom-coms. So I very much like this movie, and I think it's an important addition to the canon of the romantic comedy. And I considered it cozy. It was pretty cozy. So, Bros, watch it if you want to. Fright Night was a book that you read with a community. So like you buddy read or you read with a read along or something, like anything where somebody else is reading the book you're reading. And I read Ring Shout by P. Djèlí Clark, which is a novella. And I read this with the Allison Pages Pocket Pages Patreon book club. This is a really interesting book. It's a chosen one monster hunter kind of fantasy. And the protagonist lives in 1920s Georgia, and the monsters that she's hunting are the KKK, who are literal monsters. And it's very cool. It goes into the backstory of how previous generation KKK members partook in witchcraft and dark arts and made themselves into literal monsters. There are things that I really like in this book. It's like a portal fantasy. There are other dimensions, other worlds that the protagonist travels to, and where the monsters ultimately come from. There's a lot in this book about hatred and anger and justified anger versus senseless hate. Obviously, it has a lot to say about racism and its history in the United States. It was really nicely done in all those regards. The other thing about it is that it's very action-packed, like action, fighting, battles. To me, it read like a short story. I was dropped into the middle of some action, and then the whole rest of the book is like action, 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 action. And it crescendos with an epic battle, and that's not typically my kind of fiction. That's not typically my kind of story. The hunter, the battles, the fighting, there's a sword. I'm not that into that kind of stuff, but I still really enjoyed my read. I never really felt terribly scared or creeped out when I read this book. And honestly, there were so many fight scenes, I got a little bored here and there, but it was a short read, it was a quick read, and it was so good for what it was trying to do, and I really, really enjoyed it for that. Cozy Corner is where you share with the group your cozy reading corner, and I did that over on Instagram. It looks like this. It's my spot on the couch, and it's pretty cozy. Witching Hour is the prompt where you read a book with a supernatural element, and I read Carmilla by Sheridan Fanu. This is a 19th century vampire novel, another Gothic novel. It's about a woman vampire. It's told from the perspective of a young woman who encounters this vampire, and it kind of tells the story of their encounter together. And it was great. This was part of the inspiration for Bram Stoker's Dracula. I saw a lot of similarities, and I really, really enjoyed it, just like I really, 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 really enjoy Dracula. And finally, for Friend or Foe, where you read a genre that you aren't terribly familiar with or an author that you're not familiar with, I read The Woman in Black by Susan Hill, which is a ghost story. It's about a man traveling to a giant mansion out in the middle of nowhere. He takes a train there, like a lot of these other people do, to their big mansions in these other books. And he has to go out to this mansion by himself, but it's very mysterious because the people in the town surrounding the mansion won't talk about it, but they obviously think that there's something wrong with going there, and they discourage him from going there. But he goes anyway, and he battles with dark, creepy stuff and ghosts, and overall, it's just a really creepy ghost story. I really liked it. I felt super creeped out when I was reading this. It definitely has a gut punch of an ending, though. Like a serious gut punch of an ending. It's very atmospheric, very spooky, very kind of gentle, but also really scary throughout the whole book. It's like that kind of like low-lying, gentle creep. But then the end happens and it's a whole nother story. And it's just like the last 2 pages that just completely destroyed me about this book. So I loved it. It was great. I really, really enjoyed this read. Magic Potion was where you made a fall treat, and I made pumpkin pie, along with a whole bunch of other pumpkin-y things this month, which you have seen. The last book that I read for this challenge was Leech by Hiron and Ennes. And it didn't fit into the Trick or TBR challenge, but I did listen to it on audiobook through this second video in October. And it's amazing. I think it's my new favorite book of all time. I think I've said that about 3 books so far in this video. But it's a dystopian Gothic fiction. It just came out this month. It's a brand new book, and it's kind of my perfect Gothic novel. I loved it so much. It takes everything that I love about Gothic fiction, the eeriness, the unsettling air, the darkness, the big isolated house out in the middle of nowhere that a person has to travel by train to, and then they're stuck there. There's something supernatural, but you're not quite sure what it is. Everything that I really like about Gothic fiction. It takes away everything that I don't like about a lot of Gothic fiction that I've read in the past, and it adds this element of queerness and gender fluidity, which I just love, and it's just so freaking good. So you're following our doctor protagonist, who is from a place called the Institute. They travel by train to a very remote northern mining town where there's a big manor and a baron and his family who lives at it. There's been a mysterious death. The doctor's going to investigate. And the thing about this world is that it's dystopian. So it's several hundreds of years after like the initial fall of civilization, and humans are just starting to like build themselves back up, build up their societies. There's so many elements of this book that are so mysterious that the book doesn't just straight out tell you. The world building is so good, and that it's never an info dump of stuff about the world, because it slowly reveals things as you read the book. So certain parts about the world are kind of confusing and kind of mysterious at the beginning, but they're really naturally explained rather than just like telling you how it is at the beginning. And I really, really like that style. There are creepy things, there's supernatural things, there's talk of ghosts, there's creepy twins, there's a giant mansion, there's a creepy, gross kind of black stringy monster-ish kind of thing that's our antagonist. And it's just so amazingly well done. I'm just in love with this book. So that's everything I read, and that's everything I did during this vlog. Thank you so much for joining me. I learned so much about my preferences with Gothic fiction during this month, and I've definitely noticed some themes among all my books. I read mostly Gothic fiction, and there were so many related elements among the books. There are these themes and these tropes and these things that just appear across a lot of Gothic fiction, and I saw it in almost all of these books. Themes of isolation, abandonment, loneliness, fitting into the world around you, longing, taking trains from a city to a remote place where there's a giant house, and there's a family in it who have a lot of family troubles or are mean to each other or something. Vibes of mystery and feeling unsettled, and maybe supernatural elements, but also maybe not. Sometimes you're not sure. And I just kept seeing these same things over and over in these books, especially the train. Taking a train from a city to a remote place to a big house is so common in Gothic fiction. But I'm really, really starting to love Gothic fiction, and I think I'm just learning what I like and what I don't like. And I think I owe Wuthering Heights another read. I don't know if you remember, but I've talked in the past about how I did not like Wuthering Heights, and that was one of the reasons why I thought I didn't like Gothic fiction. But I'm realizing now, I'm a grown-up now. I read Wuthering Heights when I was like 18 in junior college. It was a bad class, and I didn't finish it because I was failing it. And Wuthering Heights was the book we read in that English class, and the teacher was obsessed with it, and I did not vibe well with that class at all. And that class actually made me think, as like an 18-year-old, that I wasn't good at like English class, that I wasn't good at reading, that I wasn't good at writing. That class made me feel like that. And so I think I have these weird emotional ties to Wuthering Heights, and I hated it at the time, but I don't know. I think I was a baby reader back then, but also I think I was resentful at the same time as reading the book to the class and the professor. But so I think I should reread it. I don't know, but I also know that I struggle with like 19th century fiction. I love women protagonists, and I love what Gothic fiction does with women sometimes. I really like a fierce woman character, but fierce in a modern way, fierce in like a modern subversive, like edgy way or something. I don't really want my female characters to be fierce in like a demure, chaste 19th century kind of way. That just annoys me. So, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I'm figuring it out, but I think I'm gonna reread Wuthering Heights because I think it deserves it. Okay, I think that's it. I think I'm done. Is this vlog really long? I don't know. I'd love to know what you read in the month of October. I'd love to know what you knit or what you cooked or baked or what you did. Did you do a lot of leaf crunching like I did? Did you go on a lot of hikes like I did? I haven't talked about it, but the footage is there. I went on quite a few beach excursions and hikes through the forest and just stuff like that with my family, because that's the kind of thing we like to do. So I hope you had fun with me and my books and my knitting, because I had a lot of fun. And thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. I hope I'm not forgetting anything, and I hope to see you in the next video. Check out my links below. I've linked to a bunch of stuff that I talked about in this vlog, also to my Instagram and my Patreon and all that blah blah blah. Love you, and I will see you pretty soon. Okay, bye.